Hi, this is Kevin. Welcome to my tutorial on how to read a grading rubric for a final assignment. Okay, in my courses we have two general kinds of assignments. We have practice assignments, which are kind of normal homework assignments, and those typically have some grading support and those kinds of things. And there's a separate tutorial on how to read a grading rubric for a practice assignment. And then by contrast, we have these final assignments. And this is the tutorial on how to read a grading rubric for one of them. And typically, the kinds of assignments that I have that I consider final assignments are term papers, final projects, and final projects in a lot of my courses are just individual assignments, and some of my courses are group assignments. So this covers all of these final projects. In the example that we're going to be going over here, we're going to be going through the grading rubric for the final project in my IS 430 course. And this is, I'm recording this in the summer of 2022, and I've just revised that assignment a bit and changed a grading rubric, and that's what we're going to be going through. Now, final assignments can be different depending upon the course that you're taking. So the final assignment for a programming course like IS 430 is going to be different than the final assignment for, say, my systems analysis course, IS 446. But the math and the points work it's similarly in each case, and that's what I want to get across. The biggest thing to remember here is that there are no grading deals on final assignments, okay? Not like the ones that we had on practice assignments. So you must earn each and every point, okay? So you've got to be careful, and you've got to check your work. Probably several times would be a good thing to do because every point's going to count. Okay, so let's look at the grading rubric for a final assignment, okay? And as I mentioned, the one that we're going to go through is the one for IS 430 in the summer of 2022. Just revised this, I think, a month ago. It's for a final project. The final project in this course is a bunch of exercises, so it's not that unlike the coding assignments that people have been doing. The difference is instead of practicing this kind of work, we're demonstrating our mastery of this kind of work, hence a different grading scheme. Okay? So there's no credit for just handing in the work, right? You have to earn every point. So we've got points for the submission, okay? In this case, it's for that section, if you recall, each of these light green areas, gray green, whatever you want to call this, each of the lighter shade boxes represents a section of the rubric, and each of the darker green-gray blocks is an item. So items occur within sections. So the submission section has two items, timeliness and file submitted, and timeliness has 10 available points, and file submitted has 10 available points. And so the total for the submission is 20 points. Okay, so in this case, 20 points are going to be for the submission, 80 points are going to be for the work that you submit. Okay. In other courses, the breakdown is slightly different. It really depends upon the course. The timeliness is really important in these final assignments because they typically happen towards the end of the course, if not at the very end. And the people who are grading your work, that's a combination of me and TAs and graders, we have a deadline to grade these and to calculate your final grades and to post them, and it's usually tight. Okay. And the other thing is, so that affects the timeliness. In terms of the files submitted, this is an important point as well because we need to be able to grade this. Now, in this particular course, because the character of the work that we're handing in is pretty much like the coding assignments, there are typically not too many surprises when it comes to files submitted. In some other courses where, for instance, in my IS 439 course, Web Development Using Application Frameworks, the final project is a whole project that has to run that is somewhat different from the practice assignments that we've been doing. And in that case, we actually allocate some points for having it be runnable and testable the first time you submit it, because there are a lot of people who submit it and it's not in a state where we're able to test it. That's not so much of a problem with IS 430, so we have pretty conventional categories here. Oh, okay, so that's the submission part, and then we have the work itself. And again, it depends on the course, but typically the work itself is broken up into some kind of sections. In this case, we're calling the sections exercises. Remember that these light gray-green boxes are sections, and the darker ones are items. And it's a common scheme, but not a universal one, that that the sections will have two items. The first one being completeness, and the second one being technique, right? And as with all of my grading rubrics, the first of the boxes that you're going to see within the item is a list of the requirements. Okay, and then the second box are going to be the possible grades. Okay, and 100% for meets all expectations, 90% for nearly meets, and that's usually you made one small mistake or that kind of thing. The 75 meets most expectations. You've made two or more small mistakes. You've made one bigger mistake. And then as we get down to these 50, 25, 10, we're trying to guess about how much of the work you've actually turned in a percentage kind of a sense. Okay. Um, as usual, there's always a 0 for not submitted or submitted too late. Okay. In each course, there is a definition of what is too late. Um, if you have any question about too late, that's the kind of thing that you're going to want to contact me on and see if there are any available extensions and that kind of stuff. Again, we're at the very end of the semester and we're up against a hard deadline. So this is the completeness, and the next one is the technique. And again, the requirements are pretty much a list of either the techniques that we learned in the chapter or the good practices that we've been following all along. It's a fairly comprehensive list. It's not exhaustive. Okay. At some point, I can only include so many things in here, but what we're expecting of you is to follow the good practices that you've learned and we followed in all of our practice assignments. Okay. And then we've got the percentages again, and the scale is pretty consistent, right? So in the technique uh, item, uh, we're judging less of, whatever you turned in, does it have the right impact? It does it the work that we were expecting. Uh, we're judging more the technique with which you did it. Did you use the techniques that we taught you? Did you follow the good practices that you've been asked to follow in the course? So in this case, technique has 3 available points. Completeness has 2. So exercise 1 is worth 5 points. Okay. And the weighting of the exercises generally has to do with how hard they are. In this case of exercise 1, I have a tutorial that you follow, so that gives it a light weight because you've been given a lot of help. By contrast, when you get down here to exercise 2, the completeness is worth 6 points, and the a technique is worth 7 points. And this is an exercise in which you're not getting as much help. Okay, so these add up. We go all the way down through these, and because the submission points were 20 points, then the other points, sometimes called the content points, as you can see here, they add up to 80. And then when you get down to the bottom, this is pretty repetitive. When you get down to the bottom, it's 25 pages long. So let me get us to the bottom. It adds up to 100 available points. Now, there's one other aspect of these that's important to know, and that is that some of these are regular exercises, and one, usually the last one, always the last one, is the challenge exercise. Okay, so you can see that exercise 8 is a challenge, and exercise 7, if we go back up here, is regular. Okay, now how are those important? Well, I typically designed the scoring on my final assignments such that if you meet expectations, if you meet all expectations, that's the phrase that we use for 100%. If you meet all expectations on the submission and on the regular exercises, you're going to score 95, okay, which is a good solid A, okay. The challenge is always worth 5 points, and it's your opportunity to get beyond the 95 and up to 100. And 100 or anything, I think 97, 98, 99, and 100 are the letter grade associated with that is A plus. Okay, so like with the practice assignments, okay, it's very feasible to get an A on a final assignment. It's particularly hard to get an A plus. Okay, these last 5 points. One is it's not a whole lot of points for the work that you're going to get. And it typically is more challenging work, right? And the idea here is that in the course, well, on the final assignment, quite a few people will get quite a few people will get A's, and only a very few will get A pluses. So that's what your expectation should be, and you've got to decide how to invest your time and energy. Okay. And again, it all adds up to 100%. So to come back and to our slide from the beginning, final assignments are typically happen around the end of the course, although we might have a term paper in the middle of a course. That's possible. Okay, so if it's a final assignment, it's something like a term paper or a project. In this case, I showed you the grading rubric for the final project in my IS 430 course as it's configured in the summer of 2022. Final assignments do not have any score guarantee features, regardless of how you perform. So you have to earn each and every point. Okay. And most people can do well on final assignments. Most people do very favorably in my courses. And so good luck on your final assignment. And I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.